let me have a quick conversation about SSL, TLS, HTTP, but also HTTPS. I want to explain what those acronyms really mean to you. So, at a glance, when I speak about SSL, TLS, HTTP, or HTTPS, I'm speaking about data encryption, right? Data encryption, but also data authentication. Is the thing is, if you are going to have a presence on the web, you got to be really careful about your data encryption, but also your data authentication, because that's going to really protect your data, of course, but also your customers, your visitors' data. So, what is data encryption and authentication? Let's quickly define what this foundational concept really means. So, data encryption and authentication aim to protect sensitive information by scrambling the data during transmission. So, what happens here is that the intended recipient, such as a web server, receives a key that provides instruction to decrypt the data. So, without this key, intercepted encrypted data appears as meaningless gibberish. Okay, and that's really good because if you have bad actors trying to really sneak on you, at least they wouldn't understand what's really happening. So to establish effective encryption or decryption, there must be an agreement between the sender and receiver. So that's kind of important. And so when it comes to that agreement, you are speaking about a process that's facilitated by security protocols like TLS and SSL. So understanding the relationship between those various programs is crucial before actually having data protection for your sites or whatever. So what is HTTPS? Let's talk about that. So basically, HTTPS it means hyper transfer protocol. Okay, and but you have the secure. So first of all, HTTP actually it's pretty good because it really helps create a foundation for your internet data, but it lacks security measures such as data encryption and authentication, leaving transmitted data vulnerable. So to address this, HTTPS establishes an encrypted connection between clients and servers, safeguarding websites from eavesdropping, tampering, and data theft. So that's kind of cool. And so originally, HTTPS was designed specifically for e-commerce and business websites that regularly handle sensitive information such as passwords and credit card details. But new recommendations suggest that every website, even the ones that are strictly informational, should actually use HTTPS. So that's really fantastic. Let me talk to you about some advantages here. If you think about HTTPS, you have advantages such as data integrity, faster performance, privacy and security, secure communications, SEO, and user experience. So that's kind of cool. When I speak about data integrity, data encryption and authentication between browser and website provide data integrity to prevent, let's say, cyber attackers from viewing sensitive information. You have faster performance because the speed of data transfers increases because the HTTPS reduces actually the data size. Privacy and security is also quite essential because HTTPS prevents websites from being hacked between browser and server. I mean, the risk actually lies between browser and server always. Okay. You also have secure communications. So what happens here is that basically HTTPS establishes a secure connection prior to data transfers. SEO, so search engines use it as a ranking signal and give preference to websites configured with HTTPS. And user experience also is really fantastic because websites using HTTPS are marked as secure by browsers, thereby enhancing user experience through trust. Okay, so overall, HTTPS offers a better, safer solution for the client-server model, but it's not really exempt from attacks though. So to maintain security standards, your sites and others must use a TLS SSL certificate purchased from a trusted certificate authority. So let's first define what an SSL really is. So SSL stands for Secure Socket Layer. So this is actually was developed by Netscape in 1994. So SSL is the security protocol part of HTTPS responsible for the encryption and authentication between various elements operating on a network. So that's important. You also have HTTPS versus SSL. So Hypertransfer Protocol Secure (HTTPS) combines Hypertext Transfer Protocol (HTTP) with either SSL or TLS. So it's important to understand that SSL/TLS is a part of HTTPS. Together, they are a single protocol. Now, the difference between HTTPS and HTTP is that basically HTTPS uses SSL TLS to provide more security than HTTP alone. Okay, so that's important. So now let me explain to you the big question is what's TLS? Well, often the terms TLS and SSL are used interchangeably, but there is a difference between the two. TLS, short for Transport Layer Security, is really an enhanced and more secure version of SSL. TLS serves the same purpose as SSL, providing privacy, authentication, and data integrity over computer networks for, let's say, various applications such as web browsing, instant messaging, but you also have email. So that's really good. So while the terms SSL and TLS are used interchangeably, TLS is considered more trustworthy due to its improvements over SSL. Let me go a little bit into more details here. So I want you to remember the fact that basically HTTPS is SSL TLS secure. Okay, so TLS/SSL, I've already established that is essential for security, for actually security of websites, because it puts the S in HTTPS. Now, major browser makers highly recommend having an up-to-date TLS SSL certificate. Okay, so in 2018, as a matter of fact, in 2018, Google Chrome started labeling sites without SSL TLS as not secure, and other browsers adopted similar practices. So you have Safari, you have Microsoft Edge, you have Mozilla, okay? And so one thing that's important also is that Google rewards sites with HTTPS with improved search engine rankings, motivating website owners to prioritize SSL TLS certificates. Now, how does SSL TLS decryption work? Well, to be effective, modern SSL TLS needs to combine high performance and reliable security. It does this by using both symmetric and asymmetric cryptography. Okay. Now, symmetric cryptography employs a shared secret key, at least 128 bits, for encrypting data, while asymmetric cryptography relies on key pairs, private and public keys, for a more secure connection. So modern SSL TLS uses asymmetric cryptography to generate a secure session key. So that's important to have this sort of this secure session key, because this secure session key is used for data encryption, decryption, and also discarded afterwards. Okay. So the TLS handshake, the good thing I want you to really remember here is that the TLS handshake appears to be a negotiation process, okay, during which the client and server establish communication, verify authenticity, determine encryption algorithms, and agree on session keys. So that's kind of important. So how does TLS SSL increase trust? Well, not all TLS SSL certificates are created equal. So beyond encryption, TLS certificates also authenticate the identity of a website owner. So this provides an added layer of security, which users will appreciate, right? Because users can see if they look beyond the lock. Certificates are offered with 3 levels of this identity verification. So you have extended validation SSL certificates, organization validated SSL certificates, and domain validated SSL certificates. So extended validation SSL certificates actually provide the highest level of identity assurance, so users can feel safe on your website. That's why banks and trusted retailers like Walmart use EV. It's called extended validation. to let their customers know they are secure. Only EV certificates provides immediate assurances by the company or parent company that owns the website when users click on the lock. So let me talk to you about the three levels of TLS SSL certificates. Okay, I think I want to really go a little more in detail so that you are really clear about what to expect. So domain validation, organization validation, and extended validation. So basically, although SSL and TLS offers a relatively secure solution for communication security, all kinds of businesses, but also individuals, by the way, may need extended authentication to provide increased protection for sensitive data. So, for instance, if you are an individual, right, but you are a coach, let's say you are a coach and you deal with customers, you deal with clients, and you want to really assure them that you are taking care of their data seriously, then having, let's say, an extended validation certificate can really help you. So organizations can opt for business level authentication, TLS, SSL certificates, okay, at three levels. So you have the DV, the OV, and the EV. So the DV, the domain validation certificates, are the most basic TLS, SSL certificates that require the organization to prove that it controls the given domain name but doesn't confirm the identity of the organization. You also have the OV certificates, the organization validation certificates. So this requires actually the business to prove that it controls the domain name and that the company is legally registered as a business. This authentication level is preferred for public-facing sites that collects data from users. And then you have EV certificates. So this is, I think I just said this before, this is actually the most secure that you can think about. So if you're interested in providing your readers, your visitors with much security, think about the EV certificates. Okay, basically this includes additional verification steps designed to protect data from tampering. Of course, even with extended validation, TLS SSL certificates may still be vulnerable in certain circumstances because the web is a pretty dangerous area anyway. So let me talk to you about SSL TLS threat vectors. So threat vectors actually do something very sneaky, something very dangerous in the sense that they exploit TLS sessions to insert malware, okay, conceal command and control traffic, and also extract stolen data. Yeah, that's pretty dope. But hey, listen, it's really bad as well. So to counter those threats and gain control over increasing TLS traffic, network administrators actually should consider decrypting incoming and lateral traffic. However, before implementing decryption, you want to consider key factors. So resource usage is the first factor because decryption consumes significant processor resources, potentially impacting the performance of security tools. Privacy regulations are the second factor. So besides the resource usage, because privacy regulations require selective decryption to protect personally identifiable information governed by GDPR, financial, and HIPAA regulations. And with a deep observability pipeline, organizations can actually gain optimal visibility over SSL TLS traffic, offloading decryption processor needs and freeing up resources for use by security tools. So that's something to really think about in the long run, actually. Okay. So you also want to protect your users. You also want to protect your business because data shared on the internet is at risk of being targeted by cyber criminals and is not limited to e-commerce sites. SSL TLS offers reliable data encryption and decryption to protect sensitive information. Okay, so you want to understand that basically, if you want to have effective communication security within your network, you want to have advanced network visibility, plus the ability to decrypt traffic and direct it to appropriate security and monitoring tools. And you got to do this on a consistent basis, especially if you are handling a lot of data sets. Okay. Let me talk to you about some extras here. So why would you need a SSL this year? Well, I think I've said this before that SSL is not just for e-commerce, right? Because SSL really does something when it comes to decrypting and encrypting your pages. It secures all types of information transferred to and from your website. So you have the checkout pages, the login panels and forms, blogs and informational sites. Okay. So, for instance, when you think about checkout pages, customers are more likely to complete a purchase if they know your checkout area and the credit card info they share is secure. What about login panels and forms? Well, SSL encrypts and protects usernames and passwords, as well as forms used to submit personal information, documents, or images. You also have blogs and informational sites. Even blogs and websites that do not collect payments or sensitive information need HTTPS to keep user activity private, right? It's all about keeping things private. And bottom line is that if you have to look beyond the lock, just seeing a padlock in the address bar is no longer enough, because by clicking on the padlock icon in the URL bar, you can verify the identity of the website owner. Okay, so just make sure that you want to look beyond the lock in the URL bar. If a website is not willing to put their identity in the certificate, you shouldn't be willing to share any identifying information with them. So you want to have the EV or you want to have the DV certificates. Okay, if you see the organization's name, now you can make a better decision about who you trust. Okay, and just remember that SSL certificates work primarily through authentication, and that authentication is quite essential to making sure that the whole process is legit, is transparent. Authentication, encryption, decryption. Okay, so that's for SSL certificates. Now, SSL works on all devices and systems. So you have phones, you have browsers, you have servers, you have email. So you have a large variety of use cases for SSL certificates. So that's really fantastic. So before closing today's conversation, I just want to reassure you that all major browsers support SSL and TLS. Okay, so that's something to think about. So from Safari all the way to Chrome to Mozilla to Microsoft Edge and what have you, they all support SSL TLS. So basically, SSL TLS is compatible with all devices and operating systems also. Okay, so your certificate authority should be able to work with you to help you achieve optimal SSL TLS configurations. So SSL TLS should also be compatible with all modern mobile devices, but some older devices may have compatibility issues when dealing with the newest protocols. So your certificate authority should be able to help you resolve those any issues that you have. Okay, so this is something to really think about. And what I want to say also is that basically, if you want to really give more info to your to your users, to your readers, pay attention to asymmetric cryptography and symmetric cryptography. I think I've said this before, but I want to really insist on the fact that this is going to add an extra layer of security to your site, because asymmetric cryptography, for instance, does something that's really good because ciphers that create mathematically related key pairs consisting of one public key and one private key for use during the encryption and decryption processes provide a lot of access keys. These keys are very large in terms of bits and are not identical. They're not identical at all, especially from a long-term perspective. Okay, and one thing I want to say also is that when it comes to SSL, TLS, HTTPS, remember that this is an ongoing process. You have to constantly monitor your network. You have to constantly update key terms and conditions. You have to update key services. You have to update. I mean, you don't have to do it yourself, but you have to make sure that they are updated and that you have the latest of the greatest security measures. So, in conclusion, to today's conversation, I spoke to you about SSL, TLS, HTTP, HTTPS. I gave you a glance into the whole conversation, the details, the extras, and the conclusion. Thank you so much. God bless you. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.